$10. However, for Samsung's $1, they price it at $7.5. So this is discounted relative to the Hynix. So why? To find out why, you have to look some business conditions or its financial ratios. In this case, if the market is efficient, there must be some reason why. Okay, so you have to look at some financial ratio we discussed before, and you have to look at its business conditions. Is there any bad things happening in Samsung operations? And even though you look at those ratios, and if there is no problem, you can say then Samsung is indeed undervalued, because there is no problem at all. The price is only cheap than SK Hynix. Or there is another case. Say Samsung, maybe the $7.5 market value is the fair price. Say this is the right price, this is the right fairly valued price. And you can say that Hynix $10 is the wrong price, is overvalued. So what is your call? What is your conclusion? What is your situation here? So what is your case? What conclusion do you have by looking at these two prices? So it is all about logics. We don't know which case is right? Maybe Samsung is undervalued, or maybe Samsung is fairly valued while the SK Hynix is overvalued. Or Samsung and Hynix both can be fairly valued if there is some difference between business conditions or financial ratios. Okay, so if there is some reason why Samsung has a low valuation and Hynix has a higher valuation. So from these possibilities, what is your choice? What is your call? What is your conclusion? It's all about the logics. So finance is a very mathematical concept, but math requires some assumptions. So while finance requires high mathematical techniques, the logical thinking is more important, I believe. Okay, so what is your logic? In our exam, you will have to estimate the value using discounted cash flow or the relative valuation techniques, for instance. And when you come up with the number, you will have to provide your logic for your number. Okay? So overall, in summary, there are two approaches to a stock valuation or the firm valuation. One, the discounted cash flow techniques, which is in an absolute basis. It means that when you use DCF model, you will have some absolute number to infer the value of the firm. And there is some relative valuation techniques using the ratios, financial ratios, or the earnings ratio, or the price multiples. We call it a ratios, relative ratios, or price multiples. Okay, so there is two approaches. And in discounted cash flow techniques, you may use a dividend discount model or the discounted cash flow model. Okay, we discussed about these two approaches in financial management class, but we will also discuss about it in the later part of this section. Okay, so that was the summary. Okay, so the value of the firm is the sum of its all future cash flows discounted by its required rate of return. Okay, we use cash flow than earnings. We use cash flow than earnings. Okay, we don't use earnings because earnings is an accounting concept. Okay, this is the accounting concept. This concept considers non-cash revenues or expenses, so we only consider the cash in a cash basis. So we use cash flows as earnings, and if the cash flow we use is attributable to the firm, say earnings before interest and taxes, which is a bond and stockholders cash flows, we discount this as a required rate of return using a weighted average cost of capital. Okay, because we in the earnings part we consider both cash flows, bondholders cash flows and stockholders cash flow. So therefore we have to use a weighted average cost of capital, both considering the required rate of return on bond and stockholders. But if we use some earning measures, say net income, of course these are accounting measures, but I'm just saying it for simplicity, okay, to help you understand this concept. So if we measure some cash flow, say net income that is only attributable to stockholders, we may discount it. We cannot use a weighted average cost of capital because this is the concept of the required rate of return for the firm, for both bond and stockholders. So in this case, in case of using the cash flow measures only for stockholders, the required rate of return should be the cost of equity, considering the required rate of return only for stockholders. Okay, so you may use cost of equity estimated, say, from the CAPM model, the capital asset pricing model. Okay. Oops. Okay. So dividend discount model. The value of a share of a common stock is the present value of all future dividends. Okay. So the value of the stock is the earning divided by some discount rate, required rate of return, say R or K, or cost of stock. So there are several approaches to measure earnings. We may use a cash flow, a cash, or we may use a dividend. And this dividend is only distributable to stockholders, right? So dividend is the earnings of stockholders only. This is not the cash that bondholders can get. So if you use dividend as its earnings, you have to discount it by the cost of equity. Okay, cost of equity, cost of stock, using estimated by a CAPM. Okay, right? Capital asset pricing model estimates the expected return or the required rate of return on the individual security, individual stock. So this is the discount rate. And the dividend discount model assumes that the cash flow distributable to shareholders are the dividend, not the earnings, or the earnings and the dividend are the same measure. Anyway, this model is useful if the firm pay out certain dividends. But as you know, a lot of firm does not pay dividends. Rather, they reinvest their earnings. So in this case, we may not apply a dividend discount model. So one critical disadvantage of the discounted dividend discount model is that we cannot use this model. We cannot apply this model to the firm that does not pay dividend. Okay. Anyway, we know that the value of a stock is the future dividend discounted by the cost of equity. And if we assume that dividend grow at a certain infinite growth rate, we call it the constant dividend growth model. The constant dividend growth model. So if the number of time the n goes to infinite, the model converges as follows, as here. I'm not showing the derivation of the model, and I just show the final term of the model, which is this. If you're curious why the model converges to that model, if you're curious why this, if the n goes to infinite, the model converges in this term. So if you're curious about the derivation of the